The Rise Today Inspirational podcast is brought to you by two relentless health warriors, Dr. Erica Harris, an empowered mindset health expert who is the passionate founder of RiseToday.com, and Megan Hubner, an entrepreneurial marketing strategist and founder of meganhubner.com. These two inspirational forces have truly thrived through adversity and are here to empower you to do the same. Together, they serve to open up the conversation about hardship and to move you to greatness through your adversities. Learn more at risetoday.com/podcast. Now, let's get started. Let's rise today, right here, right now.
Welcome back, Risers. We are so happy to have you with us today. And we are so hopeful that you really enjoyed our last show where we opened up the conversation about men's mental health and where Dan Glaze shared some phenomenal tools to help us all stay the course and really thrive and really transform on our own paths. And today we are here to open up the conversation and share a man's perspective on divorce. We are very honored to have Furkhan Dandia here with us today. Furkhan is an engineer by trade who works in the oil and gas industry. He is the doting dad to a 7-year-old child, and he has really pivoted through his own journey of divorce and now pursuing a degree in a master's of psychology. And he's now working as a life coach, really helping people best navigate through adversity, having gone through the struggles of his own divorce. And he's really used this divorce as a catalyst to really fulfill his greater life's mission. So Megan, will you please help me welcome Furkhan?
Welcome, Furkhan. So nice to see you. Thank you for joining us on the Rise Today Inspirational podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is great. And thank you for the intro. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Where are you joining us from today?
From Calgary, Alberta.
Oh, that's funny. I was going to say Calgary, Alberta when you said oil and gas, because that just seems to go together, doesn't it?
Yes.
Now, you are an engineer by trade, which, as we all know, pretty linear, very focused on, very structured. And now you are making a massive leap and transition into the world of psychology, coaching, and helping in a different way. So maybe you could take us back a little bit to the transition, what caused you to make a bit of a pivot in your life, and really how did you know that you were called to do something else than engineering?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, engineering was kind of like being of East Indian background, the choices were very limited in terms of what I could do. And, engineering was kind of a natural fit at the time. I was pretty good at math and physics, so it all worked out. And I really enjoyed like my time as an engineer early on in my career. And then, when my son was born, I kind of started questioning my purpose in life. So at that time I was 30, and I just didn't know if working in corporate was kind of my end goal in life. So I was kind of struggling with that. I just didn't know what it was I wanted to do. So I pursued a business degree, thinking that maybe, I can get away from engineering. When that was done, I still felt empty. And then, went through a divorce and started seeking therapy myself with kind of the adversity I was facing. And then I realized that, I started reading a lot about psychology and trying to understand my own self. And, that's when I kind of realized that maybe this is the area where I can help people, people like myself who are too ashamed to talk about divorce or any form of adversity, who don't know where to look for help, how to get help. And, that's where I felt like that would be my purpose and add the most value in giving back to the world.
Take us back to your divorce. So the unfolding of the divorce and the demise of the marriage, how did that leave you feeling?
Again, I'll kind of reflect culturally. I did feel ashamed and not so much because I was making that choice, but based on how others reacted around me. You know, my, we had a group of common friends, my ex-wife and I, and like I just got shunned by everyone. So I felt isolated in that sense. My family was too afraid to talk about it with me. They were almost nudging me to, go back. And yeah, so it was a lonely feeling. I lost a lot of my friends. At times I was too afraid to go talk to my family about it, and I had to keep it as a secret. And until recently, I always kept quiet about it, and I haven't felt comfortable talking openly. But for me now, it's like if I'm wanting to help others, I need to be able to speak about my own uh, struggles and my own truth openly.
How did you stay true to your heart in staying on this path that you felt, convicted was your right path to pursue for your own reasons? But despite all of this, you refer to cultural reasons, but kind of family pressures and social pressures to not stay that course. How did you find the strength to do so?
For me, the biggest piece was, I struggled for many years, and my biggest challenge was breaking apart my son's family, where he would have to live uh, without mom and dad at any given point. Either he'd have mom or he'd have dad. And that was probably my biggest challenge, and not having the courage to take that step. And then I remember this day very specifically, where it all came together. And the realization for me was, um, I'm depriving my son of the best version of myself by staying in this marriage. And the best thing I can do for him is show him the real version of me, and that the only way he would get that is if I took this step. And at times it was really tough, as you asked, where it was like, okay, well, am I doing the right thing? There was a lot of times where I doubted myself and questioned my choices, but it ultimately came back to always that, I do feel like the best version of me. I feel happier, and my son deserves to get that from me. And as far as timing, Erica, you and I have talked about this too. I get him on weekends. Ideally, I wish I could be around him all the time, but the way I've started looking at it is I get him for 2 days, and those 2 days I'm like 110% dad, and for me now it's about quality over quantity, and the time I spend with them is pure quality.
Yeah.
I think what you said was really impactful there, where you recognize that you had to be fully whole and then you can give best back to your son. And I
Hmm.
think that's something that is really difficult for, it's difficult to get your head wrapped around, think, okay, wait a minute, this is maybe not serving me and it's maybe not serving my son. And so therefore, how can I show up and show him really the light of, really diving into who you truly want to be? Because that in
Yeah,
return is teaching him.
absolutely. And you've touched on a great point there, Megan. That was one of the things too, because part of the reason why I got into my marriage was because I did doubt myself, and I was too afraid to make certain choices because I didn't want to upset others around me.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing this and being a role model for my son, I'm also hoping he feels courageous when he comes to roadblocks in his life where he's able to make tough decisions and feel confident and know that, if you're doing something and you're not happy, life is short,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to be making choices that make you happy. And sometimes you'll make poor choices, um, but at least you get to learn from them. And that's what I'm hoping the lesson my son can take out. Because I know when he gets older, he's going to have tough questions for me about breaking his family apart. And I'm hoping we can have these conversations when he's older.
Well, that's just the thing, right? Is having those conversations now so they can continue to transition, not waiting until he's the tough age of 15, but having the conversation now be really open and really fluid so that you can grow with him in your relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've done my best to maintain open communication. I encourage him to talk anytime he's upset because, for a 7-year-old, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what kind of emotions he feels, what kind of separation anxiety he has. But I've always maintained that he's he's open to talk anytime, and it's okay to cry because I do cry with him. So it's just modeling all of that behavior for him, that there's nothing wrong with expressing your emotions, feeling sad, wanting to cry. Yeah, all of that is normal.
Absolutely.
I think too, when we all create this vision in our mind, and I know this is very true for myself, and losing my once happy marriage, given all that we have had to navigate, really was really devastating for me in the sense of losing this family unit of four, right? And I just had this clear vision that this was the best scenario for all of us. But really, that even if we're perfect parents and we do our best to keep any conflict or any tension away from our children, there is that unspoken tension, right? And that is really hard to navigate around. And the kids definitely pick up on that unspoken tension. And I think when that does exist, and if there are no ways of working around there, alleviating that unspoken tension for them is truly such a gift. And choosing to create the energy that we each create in our individual homes, right? We can be fully us with our children in those environments. And so we can choose to look at divorce. And for me, it was hard for a while, right? Like I really was stuck on this picture perfect family image of four of us. I think this was my hardest point rather than the dissolving um, marriage itself and losing that relationship. This picture perfect image of the four of us together was by far harder for me. And but then choosing to see these things in a different light came to be so important, i.e., the activities I choose to do with my children, the energy in the house, right? And how things just flow so naturally. And I do agree that quality time is what we truly choose to focus on. And I know I share my kids 50-50 with my ex. And so we alternate 1 week on and 1 week off. And I know when my kids return home, I'm like 100% dedicated, devoted mommy. Like nothing really comes into that time. And I am so ready for them. I've cooked a bunch of meals, right? Like I'm just so ready to welcome them with open arms. And then when they go back, especially for me with all of my complicated health world, I need a few more nights of rest, right? Where I can sleep in a little bit more if I need to. And I can really go inwards and really focus on myself and bring it 100% next time I'm back with them. So I think it's what we choose to focus on. So for a while, when in the early days after the divorce, I was in this more period of being stuck per se, right? Because my focus was on, shoot, I have not gifted my children this perfect image of four, right?
Yeah.
But then choosing to switch that focus to the silver linings that definitely do come in tow has been an important transition for me, as it sounds like it's been for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of things you touched on. I think the biggest piece for me was um, getting out of that feeling guilty. And the reason why I felt guilty was like, whoa, I gave up having my son around 24/7, to just 2 days a week, or 6 days a month. And it was like, feel that guilty feeling took a lot out of me, and it was not serving the purpose that I wanted to serve by being alone and being a better version of myself. And that required a lot of working through, a lot of therapy, a lot of reframing. And it hasn't been easy. The last 2-3 years have been really hard, and finally being able to look at it from a different lens took a lot of work. And for everyone out there who, I think a lot of my friends kind of, that's their biggest roadblock too, is not being able to be around their children all the time. But you have to think about what you're giving up, and are you giving the best version of yourself to your child, and really reframing it when you do have that time. Like you say, if you have 50% or 20%, it's making sure you're taking full advantage of it, and making it the most quality time you can. I don't think we appreciate that even when we're living as a family unit, we're not giving them the quality time. You have your own stressors, uh, your own issues that you're kind of navigating through. But when you're able to be your whole self, that is when you can give them the best.
Absolutely. Yeah, I fully agree with that. And I know that divorce affects so many of us in different capacities, especially in this day and age. Erica has lived through divorce. My parents divorced when I was 18. So I lost that image of taking my children back to that home and them being together. And so, it changes a lot of things because we have these visions in our mind and things. But I really love how you have just continued to push to find what is really your true self. You did the engineering degree, you did the business degree, and then you kept pushing to really find what was really going to fill you up and make you feel like the best version of yourself. So congratulations on that continued road to seeking what is going to be the best for you. So how are you serving people now with this new business or degree that you have?
Yeah, well, I think just by talking, so the way I see it, I've kind of set up three stages even in my coaching practice. And the biggest piece, the first piece is you can't really set any goals unless you've really spent the time to understand yourself. And the way I work with people is spending that time, whether it's from a psychological perspective or just day to day, understanding what people's blockers are. And I think for me, the biggest piece of work was digging deep and, getting to the root of your childhood trauma. And I feel like we all have it in some capacity, whether it was just being neglected by our parents by accident or completely, we hang on to that. And that's
Mhm.
basically that forms our attachment in our adult relationships. So even understanding those things makes a huge difference because then that allows you to understand what your motivators are, what are your blockers, how can you navigate through that, then seek out what your purpose is in life, because we all need a purpose and it could be different for everyone, right? So part of that work involves me being transparent, me being honest, me being uh, comfortable sharing my own story and giving others that voice. And part of the work I'm doing is, doing a podcast where I'm talking about mental health issues with men specifically, because I find it's an area that's been untouched. We don't talk about it as much. Over the years it's gotten better, but we're still for some reason reluctant to talk about um, the issues we have. And
Mhm.
for me personally, same thing. I was afraid talking about my own divorce because of how I thought I would be looked upon. Um, you know, Getting emotional about not being able to see my son and showing that side to friends or colleagues because I didn't want to be considered weak. So I had to put on this image of this guy who had it all together, but really I didn't. I was struggling. I'd go home from work and I'd be a mess. It was hard
Mhm.
in the beginning. So by sharing my own story, I'm hoping others get the courage to be vulnerable as well, and kind of, I'm not expecting everyone to come forward, but at least give them that voice where they feel comfortable seeking help.
I think that's
Uh,
great, Furkhan. Can you do me a favor, just for our audience, to really try to connect their own dots too? Are you comfortable sharing maybe a personal experience that you shared, how childhood trauma or childhood experiences really impact and influence our trajectories, and how perhaps did your childhood experiences influence your own trajectory?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, failure was not an option. And it was like, I remember growing up, you know, I'd be proud of doing really well in math and coming home with my report card, and my mom would just glance over it and be like, "Well, you got a C in French." You know, so it would be discouraging because yeah, I didn't get straight A's all the time, but that was never celebrated. Like the little wins were never celebrated. And, I was always compared to other kids, whether it was physically or even on an intellectual level. And, you kind of start telling yourself a story as a kid. And for me, the inner dialogue was, I'm not good enough. And I think ultimately a lot of people struggle with that. In my case, I was constantly chasing these dreams, even working as an engineer in a corporate company. My goal was to become the VP one day. I didn't know why, but that was my goal.
Right.
And like I said, until my son wasn't born, I didn't really sit down and reflect on, okay, well, if I become a VP, what does that mean? What does that really mean? What value am I adding to this world? How am I making this world a better place for my son? And after going through my divorce and really seeking therapy, and really digging to getting to the bottom of the issue, I didn't realize that a lot of this was induced from childhood. um, and a lot of it was based on the inner dialogue, the negative self-talk I've had for years. I still struggle with it. Even now I catch myself and I'm like, oh, this is not supposed to be happening. I've been doing all this work. But what I want people to know is, have grace for yourself, be forgiving, forgive yourself for whatever happened in the past, because it wasn't your fault. um, but it is your responsibility to take charge and work through those issues. And you're not going to get it right all the time, but when you do have setbacks, be be kind to yourself and have grace. And even for me, I'm still discovering new things. When I think I've put an end to one issue, a few months later a new one arises and I'm like, oh, okay, now I need to work through that. But it's a never ending journey.
I
Yeah.
think the further you go down the personal development path and the mindset path and just reframing, like you've said, some of the ways that you've done things, the more you discover there's so much more to learn. And so bringing awareness to the fact that, yes, hey, wait a minute, this is a negative. This is I'm talking negatively right now to myself. It does not matter if it's about your cooking skills or the way you interact with your ex or the way that you are talking to your son. The biggest thing you can do is become aware of when it's happening, and then learn how to control your thoughts and actually stop and reframe them at that moment.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
I really love too how you're all about empowering others to take accountability, right? For where they're at in this moment of now, right? Nothing, life doesn't happen to us, life happens for us. And
Hmm.
so take accountability for where we're at. And you also talk a lot about adopting more self-compassion as compared to self-judgment, and more self-kindness, which are such important tools, and creating this safe space to be vulnerable, which as we talk a lot about on our show, creates a power within us.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I
for
really,
sure. I mean, even when you think about it, and a lot of people talk about it nowadays, it's very common now. But if you were to take the stuff you say to yourself, all the negative self-talk, and just imagine talking like that to your child, it would break your heart, right? Like if I heard myself talk like that to my son, I would be mortified. But somehow we have those conversations with ourselves all the time
Mhm.
without even recognizing it most of the time, and just having that awareness, as you guys talked about, it has made a huge difference, because now I catch myself, right? And
Yeah.
through, they talk about neuroplasticity, and through catching those patterns and reforming new patterns, even through your brain, you can shape new neural pathways
Mhm.
where you're not engaging in that behavior. But it takes a lot of time and effort and constant like
And
recognition.
consistency.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not something that you would you would do a course on a Sunday, and then you're doing it every single day. Consistency is what is going to help teach you how to change and reframe some of those thoughts.
and
Right.
also, I love this idea of creating this list, right? Of all of our achievements, all of our own accolades, right? Because we can often undermine those, right? And when we're looking on social media or in other forums, or we're just watching another family at school. And for me, it's like, oh, that family, that intact family of four, right? Crosses through my mind. And we can all adopt feelings of less worth, less value, right? We can question our own actions so easily. Or we see these picture perfect images of, whether it's families, whether it's whatever it is. If we're experiencing a health condition, we see somebody so healthy online, and we can experience these feelings of jealousy or envy or whatever you want to call it, or just feelings like we're not good enough, right? But making this, I'll call it a cool cat list, but it was called a badass list, but just for lingo, I will call it a cool kid list, but of, of all of our accolades in what we've done, so that if we feel those moments, right, because they creep in, these little moments will creep in, but it's through this self-talk, it's through these tools that we're talking about and Megan's saying of practice, that we reshift from that, right? But with this list, we could pull it up if we have it as a phone, an image on our phone. Right. I've done a TEDx motivational talk, right? I've done all these. I've survived a 2-month terminal prognosis. Have your little list that fuels you. I create this amazing space for my children in my home, right? And I'm 100% dedicated mom. Make your list of whatever it is that you are amazing at and go to that when you're feeling those feelings. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. I mean, some of the things that have worked for me, over a year ago, I started a gratitude journal. For I was trying for like 2 years to do a gratitude journal, and for some reason I just couldn't get it. Like, to list 3 things in a day that I'm grateful for, I struggled with for the longest time. And for me, the biggest thing was like, well, I kept this journal by my bed and I try to fill it at night, and most of the time I'd get lazy. But until I didn't actually force myself, and then I started doing it on my phone, because I'm like, I have no excuse to not do this. Whether I'm traveling, if I'm on the road, I can just pull it out on my phone. And now it's crazy. Like, it's become such a good habit where after doing it for over a year, 3 things come to me like immediately. Like, it's the most simplest thing too, whether it's like someone saying hi to you on the street, a complete random stranger, to the biggest things, going to see my son on the weekend. Like, it varies, but it makes such a huge difference in the chemical composition of your brain. But it's those little things that you need to do for yourself. And like you said, Erica, having that list, or a gratitude journal, or even daily affirmations, have made a huge difference for me. And they're constant reminders that, we're all unique and special in our own ways. And there's no need to feel like we're not good enough.
You brought up a really good point about this gratitude journal. And a lot of people really struggle with it, right? Like, what am I going to write about it today? A lot of my coaching clients will do these big overarching umbrella topics. I'm really thankful for my health. I'm really thankful for my children. But if you're writing that every day, the momentum for that wears out very quickly, I would think. And so I always recommend to my coaching clients to really find those moments in the day and look for them, right? That catch you off guard. And that really, those moments that really take your breath away. I always say life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by the quote that I always mess up quotes. Yeah. I am terrible. But by the moments that take our breath away. And so, whether it's even just a cashier who says, oh my gosh, I really like your shirt. That was really nice of that person, right? And I would be thankful for that. So those are things that go into my journal, right? Or a sunset, or the majestic waves of the day. It's something really just small, but that do take your breath away, and you do find gratitude for it in that moment. But it shifts your perspective when you're actively looking for these things throughout the day.
Absolutely.
It is so powerful. I like what you said, Furkhan, when you said, the journal was sitting on my bedside table for months and months and months, and it was doing nothing except for collecting dust. So I found a way to do it differently that worked for me. And that's something that you guys can implement in your day as well. Maybe the journal doesn't work, but maybe your phone does work, like Furkhan did. Maybe you could do voice notes. Maybe you keep your a pad of paper in the bathroom, and when you get up in the morning and you're doing your business in the morning, maybe that's when it comes to you. Like, you just find a way to incorporate gratitude into your life. And I 100%, we can all 3 of us will agree that it will help change and reframe the way you think about your day.
Yeah, definitely. I also recommend to my coaching clients too to, think back on their journeys and what really stood out, who really stood out on their paths, and give thanks to those people who really influenced their journeys. I think that's really powerful as well.
And the other thing that you touched on was the I am affirmations, which I I'm a huge fan of I am affirmations. You know, you guys, mirror work might be something else that you could do. You can stand in the mirror while you're shaving in the daytime. You know, this is for the gentleman, obviously, but you know, you looking in the mirror like, I am proud, I am confident, I am healthy, I'm an amazing father, I am connected to my children. Things that you can really resonate with, whatever it is. It does not have to be any of those things. It can be whatever speaks to your heart. But the more that you say them, the more they ingrain into your subconscious, and the more they become part of you. So those are two really great tips to help you transition through these times.
And turn on music, dance it out. Like it's really impossible to not shift our mindset if we're putting on Journey, Don't Stop Believing, right? And we're really singing it out. So use music as a powerful tool on your journey. Furkhan, you've been excellent. I'm so happy you've been with us today.
Oh, no problem.
Congratulations on your journey. I think your transition from engineering to business degree to psychology degree to figuring out what your path is just really been from the heart. And so, you know, I congratulate you and commend you on really chasing that goal and that dream. I think you've given our listeners some really tangible tips to help them through right now. And the one thing that I really love the most is that you said, you know, you will be the best parent when you are the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
if you are listening today and you are in that struggle, you're going through it, I know that divorce affects all of us in so many different ways. Just keep going, reach out for coaching. Like Furkhan said, reach out for coaching, find help, seek resources, and, you know, get connected to your local community, to someone else who's gone through it, because there are so many resources out there. And all those people want to do is help you through the process.
And believe in you. Rise today, my friends. Rise today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
It's gonna be a good day. Thanks so much for joining us today. Take this inspiration forward. Learn more at risetoday.com/podcast. And please do help us in our mission to spread hope, inspiration, and positivity by encouraging those in your circle to join us and to tune in for our next show of inspiration coming soon. Please contact us if you have a powerful story to share with us to inspire the world. Until next time, get out there and rise today.